In March 2019, parts of Caracas went without running water for nearly a year. Not a day, not a week, a year. And the people who had clean water, even a few gallons stored away, were not just surviving, they were trading. Today we're going to talk about something most people in the preparedness space underestimate. They think about food, they think about weapons, they think about communications, but they rarely think about water the way they should, not just as something you drink, but as something you can trade, leverage, and build position around when everything else breaks down. By the end of this video, you will understand how to produce clean water from almost any source, how to store it properly so it doesn't become a liability, and how to think about it as a bargaining asset when the systems most people depend on have stopped working. This is practical information. It applies whether you're dealing with a week-long power outage or something longer. Let's start with a number that doesn't change, no matter how prepared you think you are. 3 days. That is roughly how long a healthy adult can survive without water under normal conditions. No extreme heat, no physical exertion. The American College of Sports Medicine has documented that losing just 2% of your body's water content is enough to measurably impair both physical performance and cognitive function. Think about what that means in a collapse scenario. The decisions you make on day 2 of dehydration are not the same decisions you would make fully hydrated. You become slower, less rational, more desperate. In hot conditions, above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, a person can lose between 1 and 1.5 liters of water per hour just through sweat. At that rate, the 3-day window shrinks fast. Children, the elderly, and anyone with a chronic health condition are working on shorter timelines than that. The average American uses between 80 and 100 gallons of water every single day. Showers, laundry, dishes, toilets, running the tap while brushing their teeth. FEMA's official emergency recommendation is 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and basic sanitation. That 1 gallon is not comfort. That's survival. No shower, no laundry. Sponge bath and prioritize drinking. If you have children or anyone in your household who is pregnant or nursing, add at least half a gallon per day on top of that. What this means practically is that for a family of 4, a 2-week supply, which is now the minimum FEMA recommends after Hurricane Katrina and the 2017 Texas storms completely shattered the old 72-hour assumption, a 2-week supply is 56 gallons minimum. Most households have close to 0 stored. There is one storage configuration under $40 that can carry a family of 4 through 2 weeks with water to spare, and most people overlook it because they're thinking about the wrong container type. I'll show you exactly what it is in a few minutes. Let's talk about what the data from real collapses tells us, because this is where the picture becomes very clear. Venezuela is the most documented modern example. In 1998, roughly 87% of Venezuela's population had continuous, reliable access to clean drinking water. By 2018, after years of economic collapse and infrastructure neglect, that number had fallen to 18%. 82% of the population was either without access entirely or relying on intermittent supply that came and went without warning. The Wall Street Journal reported in March 2019 that parts of La Vega, a neighborhood of 120,000 people in Caracas, had been without running water for close to a year. Water trucks came occasionally, and according to residents, distribution was politically controlled. Government supporters got water, others waited. In that environment, people who had stored water, or who had the means to produce it, had something that no amount of devalued bolivars could buy. At the same time, Venezuela's inflation had hit over 80,000% in 2018 by conservative estimates. Some independent economists put it in the hundreds of thousands. The currency had no function. A liter of milk cost a quarter of a teacher's monthly salary. In that context, clean water was not a commodity. It was currency. Puerto Rico gives us a similar data point with better documentation. After Hurricane Maria in 2017, it took months to restore municipal water services to the island. A year after the storm, a survey by the Washington Post and Kaiser Family Foundation found that 50% of Puerto Rican households still reported they could not get enough clean water to drink. When Hurricane Fiona hit in 2022, Over 760,000 customers lost access to clean running water almost immediately. The infrastructure was still fragile from Maria 5 years earlier, and this is the pattern you see across every documented collapse. Water infrastructure goes down faster than food supply. It fails earlier and stays broken longer because it depends on electricity to pump, it depends on chemicals to treat, and it depends on supply chains to maintain. All three of those things break simultaneously during serious disruptions. The people who understood water as an asset before the event had leverage. The people who didn't were the ones knocking on doors by day 3. Most people preparing for water emergencies are focused on the wrong problem. They're thinking about how much to store. The more important question is how to produce, because storage runs out, and when it does, you need a system. I'll show you the 3-tier production setup the Wolf uses and what it costs to build it. Here's how to think about water production as a layered system rather than a single solution. The first tier is portable individual filtration. The Sawyer Mini has become a reference point in this space because of what it delivers at its price, around $20. It filters down to 0.1 microns, which removes 99.9999% of bacteria and protozoa. The rated lifespan is 100,000 gallons, which, for a single person drinking a gallon a day, is over 270 years of use. The cost per gallon of filtered water on a Sawyer Mini works out to roughly 0.02 of a cent. That is not a typo. The LifeStraw personal filter is comparable in price, rated to 1,000 liters, about 264 gallons, before replacement, and filters to the same micron standard for bacteria and protozoa. Neither of these removes viruses. In a true grid down or collapse scenario where sewage systems have failed, that distinction matters. The Grail GeoPress addresses that gap. It's a press filtration bottle that removes viruses as well, rated to 65 gallons per cartridge, faster to use, and costs more upfront. These are your individual on-the-move options. The second tier is gravity-fed group filtration for your base location. The Big Berkey is the standard reference here. It filters up to 7 gallons per day, removes bacteria, viruses, heavy metals, and a wide range of chemical contaminants, and does not require electricity, pressure, or any moving parts. You pour water in the top, and clean water collects in the bottom. A 2-filter configuration handles a small household. The cost per gallon over the life of the filters is lower than virtually any other option at that level of filtration quality. The third tier, and this is the tier that creates real bargaining position, is rainwater collection. A standard 500 square foot roof surface and a modest rainfall area can collect roughly 300 gallons from a single inch of rain. A simple gutter diversion system into food-grade barrels costs under $100 to set up. Combined with a gravity filter, that rainwater becomes potable. You have now created a water source that does not depend on the grid, does not depend on supply chains, and does not run out as long as it rains. In most of the continental United States, rainfall averages between 20 and 50 inches per year. Even at the low end, you are looking at the capacity to produce thousands of gallons annually from a system that costs less than most people spend on a single month of bottled water. Everything I'm about to cover costs under $50, and it's the part of the water conversation that almost no one talks about. How you actually negotiate water as a trade asset without making yourself a target. The Wolf will show you the positioning in 2 minutes. Back to the storage question, because the numbers matter. FEMA updated its guidance after Katrina demonstrated that the old 3-day recommendation was not realistic. The current recommendation is a minimum of 2 weeks. For a family of 4, at 1 gallon per person per day, that's 56 gallons. At the more realistic 2-gallon planning figure, which accounts for cooking and basic hygiene without a shower, you are looking at 112 gallons for 2 weeks. A 55-gallon food-grade drum, stored on a pallet off the ground, away from direct sunlight, costs between $30 and $60 new. 2 of them plus a hand pump for under $130 gives you a family of 4 more than 2 weeks at the conservative 1-gallon rate. That is your baseline. For storage chemistry, commercially bottled water in sealed original containers remains safe for 1 to 2 years before the plastic affects flavor, though the water itself stays safe longer. Home-filled food-grade containers should be rotated every 6 months, or you can add a water preserver additive, stabilized chlorine dioxide, which extends storage life to 5 years from a single treatment at filling. What containers are safe? Food-grade plastic marked with recycling codes 1, 2, or 4. Blue 5-gallon jugs, water bricks, and 55-gallon barrels are the working options. Milk jugs fail over time because the proteins in residual milk accelerate bacterial growth. Do not use them for long-term storage regardless of how thoroughly you clean them. Store in cool, dark locations. Temperature between 50 and 70 degrees is ideal. Keep containers away from gasoline, pesticides, or solvents. Plastic is somewhat permeable and will absorb those compounds. Store off concrete directly, as concrete can leach chemicals into plastic containers over time. Now to the part of this conversation that people rarely think through clearly, which is water, not just as a survival resource, but as something you can use in negotiation when everything else has lost its function. The historical pattern from collapse scenarios is consistent. In the early phase of a disruption, the first 48 to 72 hours, people are still operating on the assumption that the situation will resolve. They're irritated, not desperate. Water is not yet a trade good because most people still believe their tap will start working again. After 72 hours with no restoration, the psychology shifts. People who have children, people with medical needs, people in hot climates, these are your first trade partners. And the dynamic is not extractive, it's practical. You have something they need. You can establish a basis for exchange that benefits both parties and builds relationship rather than dependency. What works and what doesn't? Offering water in small, defined quantities, 1 gallon, 2 gallons, for labor, for specific skills, or for goods, is a straightforward transaction. It doesn't require you to disclose how much you have. It doesn't create the impression that you are a depot. The people who store visibly, who announce their water supply, who create the impression of abundance in a scarcity environment, can become targets. The people who operate from a quieter position of adequacy, who can help without advertising, have a fundamentally different set of risks. Skills trade well against water because skills don't deplete your supply. A medical professional, a mechanic, someone who knows how to preserve food, these are people worth trading a few gallons with to establish a relationship of mutual support. That relationship has ongoing value. A one-time transaction with a stranger depletes your supply and creates someone who now knows what you have. In the Venezuela context, the people who had functional water access, even partial, even intermittent, were not the wealthiest people by pre-collapse measures. They were the people who had built the infrastructure before it mattered. They had either stored what they needed, or they had a way to produce what they needed, or in some cases, both. The window to build that position closed the moment the situation became visible to everyone else. That window always closes. The question is whether you're inside it or outside it when it does. Here is what this video should leave you with. Not anxiety. Not a list of things to buy immediately. A clear picture of where you actually stand. The average household in the United States has 0 to 1 days of clean water stored. FEMA recommends a minimum of 14. The gap between those two numbers is where your vulnerability lives. The good news is that closing that gap is not expensive, and it's not technically complicated. A 55-gallon drum and a Sawyer mini filter represent the largest reduction in water risk you can achieve for under $100. A rainwater collection system connected to your existing gutters adds a production layer that no disruption can take away from you. The wolf doesn't negotiate with thirst. Neither should you. If you found this useful, there's a free PDF linked below. It's a 2-page water readiness checklist with storage calculations for different household sizes, the exact filter specs we covered today, and a negotiation framework for the barter scenario. Print it. Put it with your supplies. You won't want to be searching for it later. Subscribe if you haven't. The next video covers the 3 communication failures that cause most households to fall apart in the first week of a serious disruption, and the $12 solution most people ignore. My name is Ghost. Stay clear.